Hi everybody, my name is Amber Deitcher and this is my review of the case study for AEP 858. While looking at the facts of this case study, it has been determined that among many issues of the Golden Oaks High School, Dr. Newman informed Mr. Rhodes of several areas that did need to be improved. However, the low attendance percentage rate was at the forefront. Mr. Rhodes is a first-year principal, and he went ahead and he did his own investigation. And when he came across the data, he found that out of 965 students, there were 5 flag students that were high risk for their excused absences. These students have missed more than 10 days during the first semester, and it kind of breaks down like this. Karen, who was in the 11th grade, was discovered that she was just married before high school, before the starting of the year. She had missed random Mondays and Fridays throughout her first semester. Notes in Karen's folders indicated that the parents had requested meetings with the counselors, the teachers, and we do not know, however, though, if those meetings took place. So it was not followed through. And so that is kind of negligent on the part of the counselors and the teachers, whether or not those meetings took place. Karen did follow, Karen had failed to take a midterm exam before Christmas. The next student, Tyrone, he is in grade 10. He had been making average progress. Mom and Dad had both written an excuse note as he attended a professional conference at the beginning of the semester, and there was a note with that. And then there was a typed letter by Dad excusing him as he went on a trip to Canada. In all, Tyrone did miss 10 days, but both were excused by his homeroom teacher, as all 10 days did have educational merit. Christina missed 4 days in a row, 3 different weeks during the first semester. These were excused letters signed by the minister of Christina's, and they were signed and approved as excused absences from the homeroom teacher. However, Christina's grades suffered, and the algebra teacher requested a conference with the parents. However, again, with the notes in this case study, we do not know if these conferences were followed through with or not. The next student that was collected upon with the data was Carl. Carl is in the 10th grade, and he is enrolled in regular classes in the morning and then the vocational classes in the afternoon. Carl was transported to the vocational classes, but he had a missed attendance pattern that was later referred to the truant officer. Carl's parents did not support the strong attendance, and it could not be controlled by the school, so they thought. The last student that we will talk about during this case is John. John is the quarterback of the football team, and he is also in the 11th grade. John suffered an injury that was not related to the football, that did not happen during football. However, if he wanted to continue to play, he had to be in physical therapy. The appointments were only available in the afternoons during school days. He was excused by the athletic director to go ahead and do those appointments, and he was also excused to go home Friday afternoons to rest for the upcoming game. The teachers did not see anything wrong with that, therefore the pattern of the excuse absences were not reported. When looking at the school and most school policies, students are typically given excused absences for illnesses, death of the family, weather, or other valid reasons that is provided by the school officials. Parties involved in all of these cases have been negligent in giving the students excused absences, when in most cases they should have been marked unexcused. Most involved are now involved what they think is a legit reason to be absent from school. Most of these cases do not align with the criteria that is set forth. In Section 2, when looking at the legal and ethical issues, most of these 5 situations, there are different aspects that affect the thought process in these attendances. In the first student that we look at with Karen, she's recently married, and the parents have called the school to request the conferences with the parents. It never states that these meetings happened. While she is married, this would most likely be acting as an adult. However, the question does remain if she is a juvenile, or is she still under her parents' care. Is it the responsibility of the counselor to set up these meetings with the parents and the teachers, or at least pass a message along that a meeting is warranted? If there is a reason that something is going on at home, that she is missing the Mondays and Fridays, something is slipping through the cracks. Moving on with the case with Tyrone, his parents did do what they could to make sure that Tyrone was still getting the education and completing the work. It did state that his parents would make sure that the work was completed and he was getting the educational experience outside of school. While this does not fall into the general areas of excused absences, it was allowed by the parents and the homeroom teacher that Tyrone had. I do not feel that this specific case that the parents were being neglectful, nor were they acting against the ignorance clause. While this may not be excused absences when looking at the guidelines, this family was together doing educational activities and the work was completed. Christina was excused many times for out-of-town church activities. These absences had been approved by Christina's homeroom teacher, so a precedence was set, but a meeting was requested from her algebra teacher. Again, we do not know if the meeting had taken place. This many absences, I feel, is extreme for church activities, but in my experience, I have seen children take trips with their CYO groups, for instance, just for one example. The issues with these absences is that Christina missed 2 major exams and her grades started dropping. Carl's situation does seem to be the most neglectful when it comes to the parents. While he is participating in the vocational studies in the afternoon, his parents do not believe that the school's position is to impose in the attendance rule, so following it was simply a choice. However, Mr. Rhodes acted in a way that would lead me to believe that he didn't have the power to investigate the siblings and access their records if they were not part of the district. In this case study, it does not say that the students or his siblings go or are a part of the district, so further investigation would need to be acted upon to see whether or not he would have access to those students' records. John was excused simply because of the sports aspect of it, so I feel that the school was playing favoritism of John. The athletic director excused these absences out of the students' importance of our team. It is not the right thing to do, and his teachers had also not reported his absences to be excessive, but if it had been any other student, would they have done the same thing? Moving on to section 3, the synthesis of it. This was kind of just reiterated at the beginning. Golden Oak High School has the lowest attendance rate in the district, and Superintendent Dr. Newman has assigned new principal, Mr. Rhodes, to work closely with the social services and the court system to make sure that this issue is fixed. When looking at the facts of this, in all cases except with the exception of one, the parents are involved, whether they are writing notes, typing and signing them, and they believe that their children should have the excused absences in all of these cases. In Karen's case, it does not say that the parents believe that it should be an excuse, just that they have contacted the school to set up the meetings. When looking at the demographics of these cases, these are made up of 2 females and 3 males. Ethnicity was left out of these cases, and the only identifying information were the names, grades, and genders. It is stated that most of the residents of these cases of these schools, are middle-income families, but it does not give the socioeconomic status of any of the members of this study, only the students' parents' livelihoods. When prioritizing the facts of this case, the nature of the absences and the facts that they do not fall under the general criteria of the excused absences. Unfortunately, now the school has set forward a precedence as to what it will allow the students to miss school for and still be excused. Homeroom teachers, parents, counselors, and ministers have all been negligent in allowing these students to miss as much school. Moving forward, the students now and the decisions will be scrutinized and most likely fought due to the previous actions of these individuals. School board members, administrators, and parents now need to have a meeting to discuss truancy and what will be accepted moving forward. There are some individual cases where information is still needed to make a decision whether or not and as to who will be acting negligent. It would be in the best interest of all parties to get all of the information before a decision is made and presented. When looking at the options and the consequences moving forward, first, we need to make sure that all of the regulations and the laws are being followed. And knowing them, a decision can be made at that point in whether or not the students and the parents are in breach of the truancy laws that are set. Setting a meeting individually with parents to discuss the absences and have them justify the reasons as to why their children are missing so many days. Parents need to contact the teacher to find out what was missed. If the parents are not willing to do that, and actually it's the student's responsibility. When looking at this, students are now old enough to take their education more seriously and into their own hands. If students turned it in, they need to see how they did accuracy-wise and make up any work that was missed. An option being coming back after the school year to make up the missed days and the missed work. Consequences for missed work and missed days could include, but are not limited to, all zeros for the days that they missed and work was not turned in. A hold on their grade cards and records until the days and the work are made up. Summer school, getting the law involved or truancy agents, and also DCF. When looking at the best option, I do feel that all options that are presented could be useful in their own ways, and all at an appropriate time. As always in education, meetings with parents so that they can be informed is pertinent. It does involve them, and they will be able to help their children be accountable, and being accountable for their actions. A combination of withholding records in summer school would be the best options that are willing to be able to complete their work and make up for that time that is missed. For those students that do not want to comply with the law and the rules, then the getting in the officials involved will be the best option for all that are involved. If they're not going to respond to the rules of the school, they may think differently when the law gets involved. When looking at the implementation of the plan, before something of this nature can be put into place, it needs to be carefully written out and approved by the school board so that everyone involved can be acting consistently. Teachers, administrators, and parents and students all need to know the expectations of what the absence clause will look like and how the consequences can be implemented. Even in our school, before something can go into the handbook, it has to be voted on by our school board, and usually the teachers are able to vote on it as well. Since we are the ones in the classroom, we're the ones making our plans and going over our lesson plans. I feel the school board is very open as to how we would like to handle it in our classroom, and so it's very important to make sure that all stakeholders are on the same plan. In the letter, the consequences have to be very well and very clearly outlined. It needs to be black and white. It needs to include the information, and coming down from the state, it's very important that the laws are set out, and that the laws that deal with truancy and negligent are all on there. This will be filed into their permanent file, so if a situation does arise, the consequences do happen. The school board, the superintendent, and all parties involved will have access to the agreement. By making it clear to all parties involved, it will limit the room for error. It needs to be explained to the families that this is simply a protocol and that no single student will be exempt. And at the same time, no individual families will be targeted by the new plan. I feel like this kind of goes back to the student John, where it will play favoritism to some, maybe those that are in sports or those that, if you are in a smaller town, so-and-so is on the school board, it needs to make sure that it clearly states that no student will be exempt from this. Getting the parents to explain where they need to be for their child to be in school, where they're coming from, simply and kindly state that the consequences, what those consequences are, instead of being abrasive and threatening. Being that the last step of this plan is to get the law and the truancy agents and the DCF involved. At that point, when those parties are involved, it's simply out of the school's hands as to what will happen to the child and family. And that has to be the last straw. Nobody wants it to get to that point. But when, like just at our school, when it does get to that point, we have to take ourselves out of it and remove ourselves and simply give them the facts with that. The only thing that we can do at a school is to continue to document the absences, evaluate the circumstances, and get the students and families to understand the importance of consistent attendance. We have to continue to take the data and evaluate what is best for our school.